Hey TCS TV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the camera store, and what's better than one camera announcements? We have two. So today we're going to be talking about the Canon EOS R50, which is the smallest and lightest Canon EOS R camera yet.
And I've got their brand new full frame EOS R8. I'm always excited about brand new cameras, especially new full frame cameras. Let's put this one down for a second. Let's talk about the R50.
Yes, what I have in my hands is a tiny mirrorless camera, but it can take the EOS R mount lenses. So what's exciting about this is we have an APS-C size sensor. It's 24.2 megapixels, and it has a lot of great features that are going to be excellent for photo and video. This camera is aimed at people that are smartphone users, maybe someone that use like a Rebel DSLR as well, but it's packed with a lot of stuff that's going to appeal to people that are kind of the beginner to intermediate level photographer or video enthusiast.
Now, what I like about this tiny little camera, and it is truly a tiny little camera, is we still have a lot of really good performance features. So we don't have a mechanical shutter anymore, so we are reliant on an electronic side of things. So in full electronic shutter, we can shoot up to 15 frames per second. Now, rolling shutter will come into it a little bit, and if you want to minimize that with this camera, you can go to the electronic first curtain, which brings it down to about 12 frames a second. Still very good for a camera of this sort of size.
Yeah, and of course, back in the day with older DSLR cameras, I mean, to get that level of speed, you'd have to go to a more professional body. So you are able to shoot quite quickly, and the autofocus system is going to keep up. Now, the only thing that will kind of slow you down is it doesn't have a super deep buffer. And so we do notice after firing off a bunch of shots at that fast frame rate, you are going to start to see that buffer slow it down.
Yeah, no, when we were photographing the skater today, I mean, the buffer was plenty fine for this style of camera. If I was going to shoot action and sports photography professionally, for instance, I would certainly lean up the tree a little bit more there. I'd go to like the R6 II, for instance, which has a much bigger buffer. However, you can certainly blast off 15, 20 shots quite easily without any problem at all. So I don't have a problem with the buffer on this camera.
And I can't say this enough, but I am so impressed that even in this kind of entry point to their full frame lineup, we're seeing awesome autofocus performance. And so it has a lot of the same kind of profiles that we've seen before. It does an excellent job with face and eye detection, body detection when the skaters are skating far away and you can't see their faces. It also has profiles for animals such as dogs, cats, birds, and vehicles as well.
Yeah, I don't have any problem at all with how this autofocus works, and you really have to try it out to really get a sense of how good it is and how far away somebody has to be. It still picks up their face from a great distance and tracks so tenaciously.
You can't look at the Canon EOS R50 without talking about video. Yeah. We have some things that make this camera look like an awesome content creator's camera. I mean, first of all, we have the fully articulating screen.
The proper articulating screen, it's invaluable, I find.
Yes, we do have a microphone jack as well, and it is able to record 4K 30 uncropped, and although we're shooting in fairly cold conditions where overheating probably wouldn't normally be an issue, we were able to shoot very long clips.
Yeah, no problem at all. Now, one thing that is omitted by this camera is a headphone jack. So you don't have the ability to monitor your audio while you're recording now. An oversight. There are ways of addressing it with different microphone solutions, but that's something I wish they would have put in the camera.
Yeah, I mean, in this classic camera, we don't usually see that. More importantly, we should talk about how this camera doesn't have in-body image stabilization. Now, again, that's kind of common with cameras in this class, but you can pair it with lenses that do have optical stabilization. So for example, it's paired in the kit with this 18 to 45 millimeter lens that has 4 stops of optical stabilization.
Now, there are other lenses within the Canon lineup which will give you even more stabilization, but it's lens dependent.
Yeah, and there's other options. You know, you can pop it on a gimbal, and there's other ways to improve the steadiness of your shots. And there's also a digital option as well, but that does crop into your footage.
Now, what I like about this camera is on the top here we have our sort of standard PSAM dial here. We can go from full program into full manual if you want to really explore that. But it also has their Scene Assist Plus mode, which the camera decides everything for you. And it does a really good job of it, but it recognizes it every kind of scene. Is it sports? Is it action? Is it a portrait? What have you? It really does its best to sort of analyze your scene and give you the best results. And that's where these cameras really excel. They get you motivated and excited about photography, and you get some really good results through the camera itself, but then you can grow with this camera and go all the way into full manual if you so desire.
Yeah, and again, because you have access to this mount, you have access to all of the EOS R lenses. So you could really grow with this camera.
When it comes to the size and the handling of the R50, it's very similar in looks to the M50 Mark II, although the M50 Mark II has a little bit deeper grip, I'm finding.
It's true. When you're used to larger cameras, it does feel kind of small in your hand, but there's some nice little design elements to it that make it still feel like you have a decent enough grip on it that you're not going to drop it. And this is important, especially if you're, skating around, trying to take pictures, things like that. But some of the things that are really awesome about this is just how lightweight and easy this is to pack around. I mean, we're talking about a camera that's 376 grams, super small.
Super small.
It's great that we still have an electronic viewfinder and a camera this small. It's 2.36 million dots, which is quite decent. And you have two options in terms of the speed. You have 120 frames per second refresh rate, or you can go down to 60 if you want to have a little bit of power saving.
This R50 uses the standard LP E17 battery found in a lot of other Canon cameras. But let's stop talking about the R50 for now. Let's get into
I know, you want to talk the full frame.
Let's talk about full frame. So this is the R8, which is a very cool name to start with.
Yes. Now we have to mention that we got a pre-production sample of this camera. It's still a very early unit, and so we're not able to show you photos and video samples from this camera, but we can talk about it. We can let you know some of our initial impressions.
Yeah, we were able to shoot with it. We just can't show any images, and I can't even take any of the images home to share, but I can kind of give you an idea what the performance is like and how the fit and finish and how it feels. So this is the EOS R8. Now it has a little bit bigger body than the R50 does, and it has a much more substantial grip, which I really like. It features a 24 megapixel full frame sensor.
Yeah, now the positioning of this camera is kind of interesting. We've been waiting for quite a while for something that will be fresh to kind of replace the idea of the Canon EOS R or the RP. Now it shares a lot of the same physical characteristics as the RP, and also some of the features that we saw in the original R.
However, the performance of this camera tops what the EOS R can do.
Yeah, now I'd say the biggest improvement that we've seen over those first generation Canon EOS R cameras is having awesome autofocus. So we have the same type of autofocus system that we just saw in the Canon EOS R6 Mark II, and that's the EOS ITR AFX autofocus. And this has amazing eye selection, so you can actually choose which eye it's going to track and focus. It does an excellent job with humans overall. It also has profiles for, dogs, cats, birds, horses, and it has lots of specialized vehicles as well.
And once you put that into practice, it's very impressive. I mean, when you're trying to track a car or a motorcycle, for instance, it's actively looking for the driver of that car. And just like with birds and animals, it's actively looking for the eye or the head of the animal. It's very impressive. And to be able to do it at 40 frames per second, that is going to really improve a lot of people's photography.
Yeah, now on the video side of things, we have some great features as well. This is, again, going to be a great full frame content creators camera. We have 4K 60p, which is oversampled from 6K, and this is uncropped.
And once again, we do have a proper articulating screen for if we want to take advantage of that. But more importantly on this one, we've got a headphone jack and a microphone jack, so I'm happy to see them include that.
Yeah, now we didn't mention this earlier, but actually both of the cameras that we are looking at today have a new mode that's new to Canon, where it's a product demo autofocus mode while you're shooting video. So if you're someone that's demoing stuff, or maybe you're even in a meeting and you're using the camera for streaming, you're able to demo products a lot easier, and it's able to actually focus in on the product that you're showing the camera.
Now the other thing we didn't mention that both of these cameras have is the UVC protocol, which means you can take your USB-C cable, plug it directly into your computer, and use it as a webcam. Your computer recognizes it as a webcam, so now you can really step up your game when you want to look good on those meetings. Now also inherited from the EOS RP is that this new R8 takes the LPE17 battery, just like the R50 does. However, I wish they would have put the LPE6NH battery in this camera.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one limitation with this camera, and same thing that we mentioned with the R50 is in terms of the buffer on them. I mean, you can shoot really fast, but that buffer is going to start to fill up really quickly.
Yeah, especially when you got 40 frames per second. I can't wait to get a production copy of this camera and really put it through its full paces. So Evelyn, after playing with these cameras for the little time that we had with it, even this was a pre-production unit that we can't show you the results out of it, I'm really impressed with what Canon's packing into these cameras, especially at these price points. The ability to shoot this kind of frame rate and have this kind of autofocus, even on an entry-level camera, it's really going to push people's photographic abilities.
Yeah, Canon always does a good job of positioning their cameras, and I think although we don't have any like monumental new technology with these, it's putting a lot of the latest technology that they've released recently into these affordable cameras. Of course, we want to know, what do you guys think? Are these upgrades something that you would consider? Are you someone that is looking for a camera to replace like an M50 Mark II? Or are you coming from a smartphone or maybe even a DSLR? Let us know in the comments below.
Which camera are you more excited to talk about, the full frame R8 or the new R50? Make sure you follow us both on Instagram.
And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll catch you again very soon.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to check out more of our recent content, click up here. And if you're a Canadian, you want to support local, check out thecamerastore.com down here.